I think so many of us have run into this problem. I know you have, especially. You
Yes,
have lots and lots of stories about taking the keys away. How do you get mom or dad to stop driving?
it can be tough. Today, we're going to talk to Matt Gurwell from Senior Care Authority. Thanks so much for being with us. And he is also a retired Ohio State trooper. So you have a lot of driving experience, obviously.
Yeah, it's good to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So many of us run into this situation where it's like, what do we do? Because mom wants to keep driving or dad wants to keep driving, and they're adamant about it.
And we don't think maybe they should.
Yeah.
Well, if I could offer some tips, the first thing we need to decide is, are you accurate in your assessment that mom needs to maybe give up driving, or is it just an opinion?
Mm-hmm.
Those decisions need to be based on facts. So, if you've got someone whom you're concerned about their driving abilities due to declines in either their cognitive and or their physical abilities, we need to reduce all the emotion, opinion, and speculation to just facts.
Mm-hmm.
So, decide what your opinion is based on. Has mom had some recent fender benders? Is mom getting lost more often? Was dad stopped by the police and brought home because he couldn't remember his address? Things like that. Those are facts. And with those facts, then it's much easier to approach your loved one. You don't want to come to them and explain, Mom, I think you're a bad driver because you're 85 years old. That's not good information. It's very possible that mom or dad have been driving for 60, 70 years and maybe have never had a traffic citation or been involved in a traffic crash. And now all of a sudden, somebody half their age is telling them they shouldn't be driving any longer. And that can be a tough pill to swallow. So again, all the more importance to support that conversation with facts.
So you listed some of I think, with the obvious signs that we might see: being in a little fender bender, having some challenges. We had one person in the group who said that mom actually didn't allow her to come over to her house for a couple of weeks. And she realized it was because she had hit the garage going in, and she didn't want her daughter to see that she had done that until the car had been fixed. So, and the funny thing was, or I guess not funny, but it was her neighbor that had kind of let the daughter know, hey, your mom ran into the garage. So that is, I guess, one of the more obvious signs of concern. What are maybe some of the more subtle signs that we can look for that it may be time to have this conversation?
That's an excellent question, Kim. I've got two of many subjects that I'd like to mention here today. One is, believe this or not, have been studies that have shown the more falls an older adult has had in their home or elsewhere is directly equivalent to their likelihood to be involved in a future traffic crash. And not only is there that strong correlation, but it's more specific that the person with 2 or more falls within the past year is 2.5 times as likely to actually be the at-fault driver in a future traffic crash. So if your loved one is falling, and there's all sorts of obviously medical reasons for this, but if they're having if they have a history of falls, that's a huge red flag, and it needs to be given some consideration to the driving. Likewise, with memory, a lot of times we overlook the important role that memory plays in older driver safety, but it is so critical. I think, of course, we have to focus on mom's vision and mom's reflexes and reaction time and her hearing and things like those, the physical attributes required for safe driving. But equally important is memory. And oftentimes I have family members or an older driver themselves ask, look, I think I'm a good driver, and no problems with the police, no crashes, no near misses, no nothing. But you're telling me I shouldn't drive any longer because my memory is shot. How is that a safety issue? And families will come to us and say, yes, mom's memory is bad, but she doesn't seem to have any problem physically driving. I see that to be a convenience issue more than a safety issue.
Yeah.
Mom's going to get lost. She's going to miss her doctor's appointment. She's going to spend more on this expensive gas that we've got now. But how is it a safety issue? The headline in the Washington Post here several years ago now on a January day read, "Elderly couple found frozen to death after getting lost on drive."
Oh.
And of course, that's a terribly tragic story. But sadly, Kim, there are many, many stories like that. They occur every day across the country. We've all turned on the evening news, and you see where an older adult has left Austin, Texas, to get a loaf of bread, and they find them 3-4 days later, several states away because they were lost. And I can tell you too, as state troopers, we would come across older drivers on occasion that were lost and had absolutely not only no idea where they were, but even what state they were in.
Oh.
And you can see that can lead to other problems too. A traffic crash, yes, of course, but also becoming a victim of crime.
Mhm.
If they're lost, they're confused, they're likely scared.
Mhm.
They may or may not have much money with them. They are trying to get themselves unlost, so to speak, and they pull into a gas station in a poor part of some community, some larger city, and walk up to the bulletproof glass and bang on the window asking for directions back to Austin, Texas from Cleveland, Ohio. They make themselves excellent candidates to become a victim of crime.
Mhm.
So there's all sorts of tragic endings to an older driver continuing to drive with a decline in memory.
Yeah, I think it's easier for us to see the problems that mom or dad might have. But so many times we have people in our group who say, mom or dad says, no, I'm not giving up these keys. What do we do then? Do we get someone else involved, and who do we get?
That's an excellent question as well. Oftentimes the individual's physician can help with those conversations, and fortunately we're still in a good day where older adults respect their doctor. Now anymore they respect things kind of on a slippery slope with law enforcement and the medical profession as well, but older folks still respect their doctor. So if you can get the individual's doctor to kind of help introduce this topic to mom or dad, that might be very helpful. And then if all else fails, we've got our program offered at Senior Care Authority, and it's titled the Beyond Driving with Dignity program, where we send one of our representatives in to meet with mom or dad, sit down at their kitchen table with them and go through a process. It takes about 2.5 hours to go through the program with them. And then we help them make the right decisions about their driving future.
How do you actually get that conversation started? Because I think that, I know with my mom, this was a very much of an issue, and we were able to kind of buy some time because she'd had an eye surgery. So that made it sort of an easy, well, we need to get your eye to heal, and we need to watch that.
Right.
And for a while, the doctor, was able to say, we don't think it's good for you to drive. But there came a point where she said, okay, now it's on you, meaning my brother and me. And I think for me, I was able to sort of appeal to her sense of, maybe your vision isn't quite as good. And I know that you would feel terrible if you hit a kid on their bike, because you didn't see them. And so, I don't know if that's the right approach. I kind of appealed to her sense of, I know she would feel awful if she hurt somebody else. Obviously, I don't want her to hurt herself either, but that seemed to be kind of an approach. But I mean, you don't want to scare them or guilt them, I guess. But I don't know if that was a good approach or not, but that worked with my mom.
Though, yeah.
Yeah, Kim, that's a loaded question. Family dynamics are a funny thing. What works for Kim won't work in Mike's family, won't work in Matt's family, and vice versa. So it sounds like your approach was the perfect approach because of what you said. It worked.
Right.
But again, that may not work in the next family. The important thing, I like to encourage families to begin having the driving conversation with mom or dad today,
Mhm.
regardless of where they're at on the safe driving continuum.
Mhm.
Because if you do that, if you say, Mom, did you see where the older driver left town here to get a loaf of bread and they didn't find her for a week, several states away? If you start initiating those types of conversations now, if and when it comes time to make them more serious, if you think your mom's driving is in question, then you're already comfortable talking to her about safe driving. Share tragic stories with her that you've seen on the news. Mom, did you see where the older driver ran over somebody in the Walmart parking lot? Mom, and take that one tiny step further. Mom, if ever you're not safe to drive, I hope that you listen to my brother and I when we approach you about it. And again, then if and when that day comes, you're already you're comfortable having those types of driving conversations with your loved one.
Yeah. There was one woman that I talked to who said that she actually wrote herself a letter and she gave it to her kids and said, if I get to the point where I shouldn't be driving anymore, show me this letter that I wrote to myself to say, when my kids tell me it's time to quit driving, that I will quit driving. And so I think to your point, I think so much of it depends on knowing your parents, that relationship, and what might work with mom, because what works with my mom probably won't work with your dad.
Yeah, completely different. But besides having that conversation, don't you think it's good that at any age, whether your parents are 65 or 70 or 75 or 80, to just maybe take a drive with them every once in a while when you visit? Like, hey, Dad, let's run to the store. You can drive.
Yes,
absolutely.
absolutely. Absolutely. And it goes back to what we talked about initially, that these conversations need to be based on facts.
Yeah.
And there's no better way to get facts than getting in the car and riding with mom to the grocery store. So that's an excellent idea. Back to Kim, what you talked about, the letter. We have what we call a family driving agreement that pretty much serves the same purpose. It's just a one-page document. It's completed by the older driver, his or herself. And in essence, it says, today I'm still a good, safe driver. But if I ever lose my ability to drive safely, I will trust so-and-so. And the older driver is free to write the name of anybody they want. It might be my daughter, Kim. It might be my son, Mike. But they'll write their name in there and sign it. And it's just an informal family agreement. So just like you described, Kim. So if that day does arrive, then a lot of times families have found benefit in presenting this family driving agreement back to the older person.
Yeah,
because way they still are in charge, so to speak, of their driving retirement. They are the ones actually making the final decision.
Because I think one thing that you shared with us when we talked previously was that when it can be their decision and not the kid's decision, that empowers them.
Yes.
Absolutely, Kim. And our whole program, Beyond Driving with Dignity, is designed to do exactly that. You know, the word dignity is in the title, Beyond Driving with Dignity, the title of our program, because that is such an important component of this particular program. Anybody can take dad's keys from him or car from him. It's called a tow truck, right? You can do it from anywhere in the country. You can have it done in 5 minutes time. This program is not that. It is focused on obviously doing what's in the best interest of his safety and the safety of the motoring public. But immediately behind that, we place a huge emphasis on helping him maintain his dignity and his pride and his independence through what can certainly be described as one of life's most difficult transitions, and that is that of a driving retirement.
For sure.
So we place a ton of emphasis on having him be the decision maker. Not me. We preface the whole session with, look, I have good news for you, Mr. Jones. I'm not the decision maker here. This isn't a pass or fail test. I'm going to offer you recommendations, and I hope you take them seriously. But at the end of the day, it's your decision to make.
Yeah.
I tell people, no matter how bad a driver you might be, you can be the worst driver I've ever met with, but I'm not going to walk out of here with your car or your keys. It's still your decision. And by doing that, they take ownership in the decisions that are made. And also, that's one of the benefits. They're okay with it because they're the ones that decided. But number two, they're not mad at anybody. They're not mad at their daughter. They're not mad at the son. They're not mad at the doctor. They're not mad at the police. They're not mad at the court or the Department of Public Safety or the BMV because it was their decision.
Yes.
So we've had tremendous success with this program. 2/3 of the older drivers we meet with actually retire from driving as a direct result of the session.
There you go.
I like to explain that I don't really look for that percentage to go any higher because many of the people we meet with simply don't need to give up driving. And if they don't, we tell them that too, that we think they're doing an excellent job and call us back if anything changes.
Yeah.
One last question that you kind of brought up that I wanted to follow up on is when they are older and they need to renew their driver's license. And I guess, and I know every state may be a little bit different as far as if they require a driving test, but I know that there are some we've had in our group that said that they took their mom or dad down to get their driver's license renewed, and darn it, they approved. You know, they let them. They didn't think they should. They said yes, you should keep driving, but that would be also potentially one other step is your Department of Public Safety or whoever is that issues.
Yes, absolutely. You know, that's kind of a double-edged sword, though. If you don't think mom should be driving and you're hoping that when she goes and takes her vision exam to renew her license that she won't pass it, if you're banking on that and she does pass it, now you're looking at an uphill battle because she's going to argue forever that, look, the state themselves said I was okay to continue.
That's a good point. Yeah, good point.
You don't want to rely on that tactic.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, state says I'm okay. I can keep driving.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. It can kind of backfire on families.
That's true.
Matt, thanks so much for all the tips and suggestions. It's going to help so many people. We really appreciate it.
Excellent. Thank you for having me.
Well, it gives you a lot of ideas, though, doesn't it?
It is so hard because it is such a sign of independence to be able to hop in your car and go where you want to go. And so having to pull that away or ask them to consider doing that. Although now there are lots of ride sharing services and it's certainly easier to get around than it used to be without having a car, but still just that, I think it's more of an independence thing. Yeah.
My dad's still driving. So I guess the day is coming, but for now, I guess I'm in the clear. Hey, if you have any other tips or suggestions about ideas, about topics you'd like covered, let us know here on Parenting Aging Parents.